I was never really an Eminem fan, but here we go. All right, so we're gonna get started here. This is a live event that is supposed to include rapper Eminem from the 1990s. Is that what Eminem's old school, right? Really old school. He's from the 1990s. He's known for such hits as Rap God and Slim Shady, and that one where he has Dr. Dre tied up in his basement. That one where he throws his ex into the water out of a trunk. There's a lot of Eminem songs, right? There's many Eminem songs. But yeah, he's supposed to speak. He's supposed to speak. We're waiting any fucking moment for him. There has been over 10 speakers so far. I don't know how Detroit's got a lot of speakers. They got a lot of people coming out for Kamala, a lot of people coming out for Obama, and you know, it's a pretty big event. But the main event, the main thing that people are actually here for, is still a little ways away. So I am stuck vamping. I'm just gonna vamp a little bit here. The first album is from 1998. The first Eminem album. Alright, well, I should probably hit the button then. Let's unless we just want to be in this. No, I'll be in this one. Alright, so we're taking you live to Detroit, Michigan. A Harris and Waltz campaign event, campaign rally, in which Eminem, rapper Eminem, of the worst cartoon you've ever seen. Has anybody ever seen, like, while I vamp, has anybody ever heard of Eminem's cartoon? He had a cartoon in the early 2000s, which was supposed to be like South Park, but it's kind of like South Park if South Park wasn't good. I do not recommend, like, now I know some of you after, maybe even right now, maybe you'll even click away from me to do this, but you're gonna have to see it yourself because you don't believe me. You know, when I tell you, it's like, it's bad. It's bad. Oh, here comes somebody else. Glup Shitto, number 15 is coming out. I'm sorry, chat. We got to get through all the Glup Shitto characters. We got to get through all the fan favorite. I don't know. I mean, like, these are probably local Detroit people, I would guess, that are coming out to let's hear what they have to say. Anyway, we're kind of here for the for Eminem, for Obama, and maybe for a little bit of Kamala before we get started. We're also going to do some Ben Shapiro, so stick around for that. If you want to see Ben Shapiro's cringy appearance at UCLA, where he gets roasted by some students there, even though he's in a safe space, right? It's a YAF, Young America Foundation, that brought Shapiro out, and but he still faces some opposition. Some people show up to try to roast him. Oh my God, how many people can they have to speak? Like, what is going on? You know what they did? I bet they did this, right? Yeah, because it says Eminem expected to introduce Barack Obama and Kamala Harris at Kamala Harris rally in Detroit, right? So it's expected that Eminem will pop up on our screen here. And let me talk to chat. Chat, how are you doing? There's an Eminem song on Beat Sabers. Which one is it? I wonder. He also had a comic book. I've never played Persona. Is it a RPG? Yeah, it's a lot like that. But actually, it stuck to Persona stuck to the Final Fantasy roots. So you know the way that Final Fantasy is a oh my God, what is it called? There's like, it's the thing where you choose an action and it just waits for you. What is that? Somebody in chat knows what this is called, right? It's that kind of video game still, and they seem to be sticking to it. I will supply the tea whilst we wait for Eminem. Thank you, Terror Uwuism. I'm relying on you, chat, to be interesting. Drink a fifth of vodka. Dare me to drive. Oh, that's a Eminem lyric. Eminem was the embodiment of the Bush era. I'm assuming you mean Bush, the president, and not Bush, the British alt-rock group. He did a song in the Venom movie. Eminem is really from the early 2000s, in my view. Mostly 2000s, but started in the 90s, 2000s. What's his best album? Is he going to rap or speak? That's a good question. SM asks, is Eminem going to rap or speak? I guess we'll have to find out. What's up, Aaron Patton? Good to see you. Oh yeah, so the real terrorism is pointing out that the whole idea of the of Trump being King Cyrus, right, and building the temple, the third temple, would be built on the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So in other words, something that would inflame the entirety of the Middle East. Israel's actually not doing good. If you followed that New York Times story about the soldier who was assigned to killdozer. I'm going to call it a killdozer. It's not a bulldozer. It's a weaponized, militarized bulldozer that they literally use to run over live people in Gaza, the Israel Defense Forces, right? And so the article's all about his PTSD and how he ran over too many people and it hurt his, mental health. And, he's struggling with that. But it also, I feel like there's some discussion of the that this is not an entirely uncommon thing, and that Israel is losing some of its forces to to like mental illness due to the idea. Like, imagine this, chat. You grow up in Israel, it's kind of a sheltered lifestyle compared to what exists in Gaza. Then you get to like 18, 19, you get drafted into you serve your IDF thing. You get sent into Gaza, and you see things that you've never fucking seen before, right? So they're losing a lot of their armed forces in the fact that what the armed forces are required to do is kind of inhuman. So, that is another limit of the ability of Netanyahu to continue this rampage that he's been on since October 7th, where the Israeli armed forces themselves are to some degree compromised. Oh my God, I can't believe they got so many people to come out and vamp. They're vamping. They're waiting for, this is my thing. They're waiting for Eminem to come out. Thank you, Omega Star. That's really sweet of you. Mosh was the only song of his I really liked. When you said Mosh, I admit.
So peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communists invading radicals.
When you said Mosh, I immediately thought of the Hebrew word. Anyway, so somebody else is coming out. Will it be Eminem? We are wait. There he is. Wait, is that him? Is that right? Is this Eminem? Yes. All right, we gotta mute him until he actually comes out. That's Eminem. All right, so here we are, chat. The moment that was destined, where Eminem introduces Obama, Kamala, Waltz, etc. Let's turn him up.
What up, though?
Seriously, it's so quiet.
So look, I wrote down a few things I wanted to say.
I'm gonna turn this up. Let's add.
I'm here tonight.
That too much gain?
For a couple of important reasons. As most of you know,
that's pretty loud, right?
The city of Detroit and the whole state of Michigan
dial that
mean
back.
A lot to me. And going into this election, the spotlight is on us more than ever, and I think it's important to use your voice. So I'm encouraging everybody to get out and vote, please. I also think that people shouldn't be afraid to express their opinions. And I don't think anyone wants an America where people are worried about retribution or what people will do if you make your opinion known. I think Vice President Harris supports a future for this country where these freedoms and many others will be protected and upheld. And here to tell you much more about that, President Barack Obama.
Okay, so there it is. This isn't exactly his first foray into politics, by the way. Eminem was, I think, made a video against George W. Bush back in the day. Here comes Obama. He's been vocal against Trump. He's not a fan of Trump. Now, there's a lot of Eminem's, like, you know, personal opinions that seem pretty chuddy. Like, he's obviously, you know, was pretty homophobic back in the day, and until Elton John convinced him not to be. And you know, maybe some of his lyrics still, you know, contain aspects of transphobia, toxic masculinity, etc. But yeah, no fan of Trump, and no fan of George W. Bush in general. No fan of Republicans. Here we go. Make Irene bounce. God damn it. I wish I had the... Wait, maybe I am standing up. All right, so here's Obama.
Let me just say, I gotta say, you know, I have done a lot of rallies, so I don't usually get nervous.
So again, chat, we're not gonna stay with this too long. I just thought it'd be neat to start with it since we're since this was happening right now. Oh no, I knew it. He can't resist it. He can't.
Mom, spaghetti.
Is he a 90s kid?
Calm and ready to drop bombs, but I keep bomb forgetting.
I'm trying to think of like what Obama's era. Yeah, he'd be like a 90s kid, right?
Dun, 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 dun.
Wait, am I wrong? Is he more of an 80s kid?
I was gonna be performing. I was gonna jump out. Love me some Eminem. I love you back. All right. I love you back. It is good to be back in Michigan. Good to be back in Motor City.
Bulldog says lock Trump up.
I heard
Clinton says blew all the way.
another rally here on Friday night, but it was a little smaller than this one.
I'm the reason you're voting for Trump. Thank you, Reaper.
Don't boo. I'm telling you right now, don't boo. They can't hear your boos, but they can hear your votes. And I am here today for a very important reason. To ask you to vote for your congressman, Shri Tanada, for your next senator, Alyssa Slotkin, for the next president of the United States, Kamala Harris.
So I'm kind of wondering whether we're going to get the Obama stump speech
Here in Detroit,
or just kind of the intro.
in-person voting has already started. If you are not registered, you can do it right before you vote at any early voting site. Early in-person voting begins all across Michigan on October 26th. And if you have an app...
Chat, what do you think? I was talking to my thumbnail designer about this morning, and
Just go ahead and do that.
I'm kind of wondering,
Vote early, where to register.
had Obama been... Were there not term limits on the presidency?
Ballot drop box near you.
Do you think Obama would still be the president?
iwillvote.com/Michigan.
So back in the day, the United States didn't have term limits. A president could run once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, however many. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is probably the president that was elected to the most terms, right? But after him, they put a limit on it,
and more hopeful
on how many times people could run for president. But like,
let me tell you, your vote is gonna matter.
when I see him talk about Trump, I see somebody who would have kicked Trump's ass. My personal opinion is that Hillary Clinton was a historically weak candidate, as was Donald Trump.
But hold on.
And that any other normal politician that ran against them in the general election probably would have won. On either side.
But now there are freaking communists invading radicals.
Hold on a second.
But I could be wrong.
We've been through a lot together these last few years. There was a historic pandemic, and it wreaked havoc on our communities and our families and our businesses. Disruptions from the pandemic then caused prices to hike, and that put a strain on family budgets.
Green Tea says, what exactly is toxic masculinity? If you have to ask, you're probably immersed in it right now. And it'd be like me describing the air to you, and you wouldn't be able to understand it because you're breathing the air, you're existing in air.
I understand that.
But if you have a chance to
But what I cannot understand,
get yourself into a better environment, you might start to understand that shit doesn't have to be like that, right?
things up in a way that is good for you. Because there is absolutely no evidence that this man thinks about anybody but...
So in other words, if you're getting policed, if you're a guy and you're getting policed on what it means to be a man, being told that you're not doing it right, right? That's not what a man should do, or like, you know, then you're immersed in it.
Golden escalator 9 years ago. And when he's not complaining, when he's not doing some strange tweet, he's trying to sell you stuff. I mean, who?
Obama is a failure, says Fortune. Fortune, I actually agree with you to a certain extent. I feel like there's certain policies of his that weren't up to par. But we might not have the same bones to pick with Obama.
Made in Switzerland, but nobody really knows.
Okay, so he's talking about the Trump products. We've covered these extensively. Trumpy Trout.
The Trump Bible.
Oh no, I thought he was gonna say Trumpy Trout.
Don't boo.
Don't boo, vote.
Don't boo, vote.
That's what he's been saying. I mean, he's pretty good at this. He's good at whether or not you like him, whether or not you like his policies. And like I said, I've got some.
The Word of God, Donald Trump edition. He's got his name.
I've got some complaints
Matthew and Luke.
about his
And I'll give you one guess where those Bibles are.
administration, but you do have to admit that he has got the gift.
Mr. Tough Guy on China, except when he can make a few bucks.
Yeah, a lot of his products. So Obama's talking about how he sells products to enrich himself, to pay off his legal bills, etc. The Trump watch,
You know, that's going too far.
the Trump Bible, the Trump shoes, the gold shoes, right?
And the reason
And some of this shit is literally made in China, despite the fact that this guy is a China hater.
his status, he's not thinking about you. For him, power is nothing more than a means to his ends. He wants the middle class to pay the price for another huge tax cut that would mostly help him and his country club buddies.
You know what's weird is that Obama's got some of the same writers
Reproductive rights, 'cause he figures it won't
as the rest of the Democrats. And yet this argument that he's making here,
and this is the most important thing.
I mean, you've heard Kamala kind of touch on it, right?
Donald Trump
But you-
wants us to think that this country is hopelessly divided,
You didn't hear Hillary talk about it. You didn't hear Biden talk about it.
and us, for him,
Oh God, he's going to go back into the two Americas.
support him. And everybody else who doesn't, that's them. That's the enemy.
So if you were born before the time of Obama,
Because he understands that dividing people
he became a breakout star when he
boosts his
spoke out at the 2004 Democratic National Convention, and his speech talked about two Americas.
mindset. Those are his
And
intentions.
you know, his intent was to say that there's not two Americas, that we're one. So it's, you know,
Y'all have,
kind of feel good,
An example of confidence in your
kumbaya, friendship is magic kind of stuff.
That's what confidence is.
And that was his tack, right? He thought that he could work with the Republicans. He thought that the fever would break. However, it never did.
Mr. Trump lately, he's out there just
He came to the office ready to compromise.
just a word salad.
And the Republicans met in secret, deciding how they would make sure that his agenda was stymied.
Now, I've had a lot of town hall meetings. And the point is that you're supposed to listen.
So his attempt to reach across the aisles to say that we're not two Americas, we're one America, and we can work together for the good of all, that's just not how the Republicans operate.
You know what? I don't feel like taking questions no more. And then he just played music for half an hour.
He's talking about the Trump 40-minute.
He's just up there swaying to
Yeah.
Ave Maria and YMCA. Can you imagine if Alyssa or I or Gretchen did that? Now, I will say our playlist might be better.
He's talking about the double standard between like
I'd have lose yourself.
any other candidate and Trump, the way that Trump does stuff that would get any other candidate just shit canned, and that somehow
Recently he called himself the father of IVF. Now, I
father of IDF,
have no idea what that means.
the father of IDF maybe,
You don't either.
and he doesn't either. That's the important part.
Was
He
so
said
peaceful up here,
January
but now
6th
there are freaking communists
a
invading
day of love.
radicals.
Made it sound like Woodstock. Made it sound like Coachella.
I mean, it was for him. If you're a Trump fan, that January 6th is like your Coachella.
If your grandpa,
It's your summer of love.
you be worried. You'd call up. You'd call up your sister, your brother, your cousin. You'd be all like, "Let me holler at you."
You'd be like, is he okay?
Notice, Grandpa.
Yeah, MD, I know he said IVF, right?
But this is somebody who
But
wants
Trump's-
unchecked power.
Trump's judges
We
that he put on the Supreme Court are the reason that IVF is in question in the first place. So for him to say he's the father of IVF is just like,
America's ready to turn the
it's
page.
bullshit.
We're ready for a better story. Michigan, we are ready.
Now, on the other hand, if he wanted to say he's the father of IDF, right, the Israeli Defense Forces, he did a lot for Israel while he was president. He allowed them to annex the Golan Heights. He moved the United States embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He sent in his failed son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who has no background in diplomacy, to negotiate what were called the Abraham Accords and what are in a large way responsible for October 7th.
Somebody who was raised in the middle class.
So that's why I say he's the father of the IDF, not the more than he is the father of the IVF.
She did not pretend to work at McDonald's when it was closed. This is somebody who believes in the values that built this country. And she is as prepared as any nominee for president has ever been. That's who Kamala is. And in the White House, she'll have an outstanding partner in Governor Tim Walz.
Or Comrade Kamala, if you're a MAGA fan, right?
Before I came here,
And you actually believe that Kamala Harris is some sort of a communist, which to me is wild.
he's a veteran, he's a teacher.
As a leftist, it's wild. It's wild that people think that Kamala and myself have the same ideology. I'm critical
He's a car guy. He can even
of the Harris campaign. I'm critical of the Obama administration. I think it's too conservative. I think they're too close to the Republicans.
think Donald Trump can do that. Do you think Donald Trump has ever even changed a tire in his life? Let me tell you, if that man gets a flat tire, what's the matter? We need an EMT.
Yeah, this keeps happening. This keeps happening. People pass out at these
Bend
things.
your knees a little bit. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. You got to keep moving a little bit. Don't lock those knees.
I guess he's doing the Eminem,
Right back there, please.
You Gotta Lose It
Now,
beat. To me, it kind of sounds like Bill Maher, though. Anybody in chat know Bill Maher?
he has his chauffeur.
The fucking boomer from hell?
Says Jeeves.
Bill Maher?
The-
Dun, 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 dun.
That's
I
what
can't say any more else I'll get sued. Yeah, so this is his
I don't know.
this is his stump speech. We've kind of heard this before.
I imagine it. The point is, if you elect Kamala and Tim,
The point is that Donald Trump has got very soft hands. That's what Obama's trying to say. He's got very soft hands. He's never changed a tire. He's never done anything for real for himself in his life.
relate to you because
Not only has he not done a job where he cooked fries before, he has probably not cooked fries for himself. He has probably not taken frozen fries and put them in the oven for himself, right? Donald Trump has very soft hands.
steadily growing.
Softer than mine.
Inflation is slowing, but the price of everything from healthcare to housing to groceries is still too high, and that hurts. The question is, who's actually going to do something about it? All right, y'all already know the answer, but let me give it to you anyway. And this is, you have to do a little bit of homework, kind of examine their plans. So Donald Trump's plan is to give another massive tax cut to billionaires and big corporations.
All right, I gotta point out,
Do not boo.
if you're in Twitch right now, you better make a plan to get out of the top of the hour ad break, because it's coming up in 15 seconds now, right?
I'll be honest with you, I've been
It's
talking.
a 3-minute ad break. You can escape it for free with a Twitch Prime.
People say, well,
You can buy yourself a sub for $6, or maybe you could get gifted a sub. That sort of thing more likely to happen if you're active in the chat. Let's get back to Obama.
When he first came in, it was pretty good. And I say, yeah, it was good because it was my economy.
You can tell he's sore about this. And he's right to be sore.
I know y'all remember it. I know, folks.
Omega Star, thank you for the gifty to Corwin Chelway.
I spent 8 years cleaning up the mess that the Republicans left me.
It's not... Oh my god. There's more to this than he's going to tell you.
America was flat on its back.
It what?
They didn't want to lift a finger to help.
So George W. Bush was the president prior to Obama, so that's what he means when he says the mess the Republicans left me. But it was the banking industry
I handed
that fucked up the economy
5 straight
and then held a
jobs growth.
figurative gun to the head of the American state,
Did the work.
saying you got to bail us out or else you're fucked. And Obama bailed them out. Now I have every reason to believe John McCain would have done the same thing.
People who didn't need one. Drove up the deficit in the process. Now he wants to do it again. Do not fall for that okey doke. Don't be bamboozled.
I haven't heard this phrase before. They don't fall for that okey doke.
All right. So that's
What does that mean?
economy. When it comes to health care, Donald Trump's only answer is to end the Affordable Care Act. Now, do not boo. Now, if you ask him, hold on. If you ask him, he doesn't really even know why he wants to end it, except for the fact that I did it. So, but the problem he's got, the problem Vance has got, is it's now popular, right? Because 50 million people have gotten health care from it that didn't have it before. So y'all remember this? A couple weeks ago, his running mate is debating Tim, and his running mate says, has the nerve, has the chutzpah.
Tacky Hausja, it's actually pronounced Obamna. It's Obamna.
Quote, salvage the Affordable Care Act. Donald Trump spent his entire presidency trying to tear that thing down. And he couldn't even do that right. And now, 8 years after he was elected. The moderator in the debate, y'all remember this, moderator says, all right, well, if
Omega Star saying the okie dokie means don't trust the status quo.
he said,
Thank you for the bits, Omega Star, and thank you for the gift
for how he would replace it.
sub to Corwin.
Concepts of a plan. Now, I want y'all to think about this. Let's say your boss gives you an assignment, says, look, I need it by Friday. So Friday rolls around.
Yeah, he's gonna make that joke again.
Did you finish that project?
If you've watched him before, this is his stump speech.
Actually, I haven't started.
Okie dokie means a trick. Thank you.
Concept of a plan.
Oh, bungler?
Or
An okie doke is a lie? Okay. The Tao of the God Cat, yes.
did you do the dishes? I have a concept of a plan.
I mean, yop yop, I kind of agree with you in that the ACA should have made healthcare cheaper, and it didn't.
If it would not work for you,
But if we were to do what Trump wants to do and repeal the ACA,
Was so peaceful up here, but
The
now
good
there are
news
freaking
is-
communist
the
invading
good news is the
radicals.
Kamala
all right, so
does not have concepts of a plan.
if we were to
Was so peaceful up here,
To make your
but now
life
there are
better.
freaking communist invading radicals.
if we were to appeal Obamacare, we'd be stuck in a position where
Because it
She'll
was
go
so
after
peaceful up
corporations
here,
that are trying to
but now
jack
there
up
are
prices,
freaking
just like she went
communist
after the
invading
big banks
radicals.
and
where people with pre-existing conditions would not be able to get health care, right? So there are some good aspects of the ACA, despite the failure of it to control costs, which is a huge deal, and was the original intent of the ACA.
She'll give first-time home buyers up to $25,000 to help with a down payment. Concrete plans.
Okay, so plans versus concepts of a plan.
Obama's already worked with Joe Biden to bring down the cost of insulin and more than 50 prescription drugs. She's going to do more. As president, she will not stop
Yeah, exactly, Conrad.
to limit out-of-pocket costs and protect your care.
And also the Medicare expansion. The Medicaid expansion was huge.
Instead of giving more tax
Some of you may have health care because of the Medicaid expansion.
Obama's going to give a tax cut to people who need it. 100 million working class and middle class and working people here in America. You know, that's who Kamala is. That's
Tower time. Yes, Obama did kill U.S. citizens in drone strikes. So did Trump. So does almost every American president.
if you challenge Trump or Vance on these quote-unquote concepts, then they'll fall back on one answer. This is their go-to about everything. Blame immigrants. He wants you to believe that if you let him round up whoever he wants and ship them out, all your problems will be solved.
RD, ACA was not a scam.
Now,
ACA was just watered down.
there are going to be a couple times where I really want to key in on this.
You could say ACA was a sellout if you want to. It's not a scam, though. What's a scam
Voting for this guy.
is the way that the insurance industry was running healthcare before the ACA.
To say this when you're talking to folks who are concerned about immigration. Immigration is a real issue.
If you were able to stay on your parents' health insurance to age 26, you can thank Obama, okay? You can say thanks Obama for that.
The system works the way it's
If you've got health care right now due to the Medicaid expansion, you can say thanks Obama. If you've got a pre-existing condition which would have made it impossible for you to be covered, you can thank Obama.
Kamala, you've been vice president for 4 years.
But there are things that the ACA did not do, that the ACA failed to do because it got watered down.
Wasn't he in charge for 4 years? If rounding up and deporting millions of desperate people, many of them who are women and children, if that's the answer to everything, why is it that the number of undocumented immigrants basically stayed the same when he left office as when he took office? He did not solve the problem, and I'll tell you why. Because he does not have a real plan. He has concepts of a plan, and it's a mean and ugly plan designed to make people resentful and angry. So I'll tell you what an actual plan is. There was an actual plan to bring order at the border and fix our immigration system. A bipartisan.
So yeah, speaking of selling out, we're talking about the Harris and Biden immigration policy, which is actually a sellout of Obama's immigration policy.
Decided to
So ironic that this guy finds him in the position of defending
not vote for this.
the cave-in that Biden did to Trump's. Essentially, he
For the election, he thought it would be helpful to him.
so both. Yeah, Trump is a scumbag for this, and Biden is a scumbag for this. The immigration policy, what they're talking about, right?
Who will make problems worse just to make his politics better.
Obama's immigration policy was about a pathway to citizenship. It was about
And that's what Kamala Harris is going to do.
DACA, and the Democrats have given up on that. They have caved in to Trump's immigration policy, right? So that makes them scumbags. Donald Trump is a scumbag because when they caved in and allowed him, allowed the Republicans to pass essentially a Trumpian immigration policy,
Now, some of you may not be aware.
he told his
I go way back.
Congress not to vote for it.
She was in the administration.
And so his plan, his rhetoric, his policies are something that he didn't actually want when it came down to it. If it could cost him votes, he didn't want that passed. And this is why all of your politicians are scumbag, because none of them care. None of them actually care about policy. All of them care about politics, right?
And on some of these key issues, I'd have her negotiate.
Immigration is a great example
When you had to.
of how both sides of the political equation are corrupt.
In Congress, she's been working on the issues that matter to you, like bringing down the cost of prescription drugs and bringing supply chains back to the U.S. and creating good jobs right here in Michigan, working with state government. This is the kind of person we need in Washington, because presidents can't do it alone. She will help Kamala and Tim get stuff done. Somebody who shares our values and wants to move the country forward and not back. Now, one of those values we share, that we talk about, that we worked on, that all of you care deeply about, is freedom. So let me talk about that just for a second. I don't think we've ever had an election with candidates whose conception, whose understanding of freedom is so different. Because for Donald Trump and his cronies, freedom basically just means getting away with stuff.
Yeah, and that's what his Supreme Court's allowed him to do, right? They literally wrote it into the law that any crime the president commits, if it's in the pursuance of his official acts as president, it's not a crime. They made it legal for the president to break the law. The corrupt, illegitimate Supreme Court
He actually said
that the Republicans stole.
any responsibility at all. I do not believe any American president has ever uttered those words before. But that's his idea of freedom.
Yeah, he said he wasn't responsible for the disaster of his COVID policy, right?
We have a broader idea of freedom. We believe in the freedom if we're willing to work hard to provide for our families. We believe in the freedom to breathe clean air and drink clean water and send our kids to school without worrying if they're going to come home.
Choki's asking me about Destiny, saying that he was glad that Michael Brooks is dead
Gives each of us the right
because he doesn't agree with him on Palestine.
and it requires us to recognize that other people
I covered that, I believe, on Saturday,
choices.
but we will be coming back to that, and we might even watch
We said
There's a reason Destiny hates Michael Brooks. Michael Brooks kicked his ass in a debate,
there are
and we should watch that debate sometime.
on both sides of the abortion divide. And I respect anybody whose faith tells them this isn't something they can support. But if we believe in freedom,
What's even going on? Obama's giving a speech, Patrick Starr.
personal decision should be made by the woman whose body is involved and not by politicians.
We've already seen Eminem introduce Obama. I think Obama's going to introduce Waltz, and maybe Waltz is going to introduce Kamala Harris.
And the majority of Americans.
So we're watching a political rally, which we do often on my stream.
Into a pretzel on this issue.
More often than not, though, I'm watching like a Trump rally, because I think those are really interesting. If you actually watch the Trump rallies, you'll hear him say some wild shit.
He says, he told women, I'll be your protector.
Like that, yeah.
He protected you. He handpicked 3 of the Supreme Court justices that overturned Roe versus Wade. He bragged about it. Now there are Trump abortion bans in 20 states, many of them with no exceptions for rape and incest. And he's going around saying everybody wanted it that way. No, they did not. So,
Yeah, Trump's doing some major gaslighting when it comes to
what's at stake here?
issues of abortion and bodily autonomy.
Into the Senate. She will vote to restore the reproductive freedom that women had for nearly 50 years. And if Congress passes that bill,
The left canceled Eminem. Conrad, are you a Gen Xer? Sorry to call you out if you are. Look,
and that is just one example.
if Eminem's been canceled, it's news to me.
Matter. And I want to spend a little time on this. Don't worry, I'm almost done. Hey, as I get how frustrating politics can seem sometimes. I get frustrated, Lord knows.
Because it was so
I don't
peaceful
watch
up here,
cable news.
but now there are freaking communists invading
Because they give you a
radicals.
headache,
It does.
in a bad mood.
Because it was so peaceful up here,
Because it
but
seems
now
like
communists invading
bicker and
radicals.
mad.
An elder millennial making a joke. Yeah.
It's done, and so you start feeling like your vote doesn't matter. But, in fact, your vote does matter. Because your vote can make your life a little bit better or a little bit worse. Now, people sometimes, I think, have the wrong idea. Politics is not going to solve all your problems.
I for once want to have somebody like seriously being like, they canceled Eminem. They canceled my boy.
Even if Kamala
I put the X filter on my TikTok profile to show that Eminem has been canceled. And I'm coming for you, Gen Z.
One administration. Those things don't stop overnight.
Yeah, right? News to me.
The way you make progress is by making things better a little bit at a time, and then over time, those little differences become big differences.
Terrorism, keep posting those bangers.
And
We're here for it.
let,
Yeah, mods in Shorts chat, they're having trouble. Galactic News Network says, what does canceled even mean? Having your music played all over the world and being worth millions of dollars? I guess so.
we got a lot of stuff done, but there's a bunch of stuff I didn't get done. I didn't solve, for example, all the problems with our healthcare system.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Almost 50 million people have gotten health care through the Affordable Care Act. It made a difference in their lives. Everybody here.
On the other hand, it's fun banning chuds. Yeah.
Somebody who would not have had health insurance.
Captain Reese says Obama is crazy.
More than 50 million people
How so, Captain Reese?
in conditions can no longer be denied coverage or charged more. Before that passed, if you had a kid who got sick, even if they got cured, the fact that they had gotten sick before, that they had a pre-existing condition, they might not have been able to get insurance.
So stick around, Shorts chat. We're going to cover Ben Shapiro at UCLA after this, right?
Look, I'm not doing.
We're going to finish up Obama.
Example to tell you
We're going to get a little bit of Kamala.
that a little
And then we're going to go right into Ben Shapiro. Shabibo.
I'll give you another example that nobody talks about anymore. And I don't know why we don't talk about it. when I was president,
Tommy Boyo says maybe they meant he's crazy good. Yeah, crazy good at speaking for sure.
we had seen like the H1N1 virus.
I mean,
and the Ebola virus, and I talked to scientists.
his policy left something to be desired. But again, better than McCain's would have been.
At some point, we're
Better than Romney's would have been. And definitely better than anything Trump's going to give you.
I said, look, the same way we plan for hurricanes and tornadoes, we actually have.
CS says, is he scolding black men again? Not today, CS.
So we put together a whole playbook. Talked to the experts. We got all the agencies together. We said, if a pandemic happens, here's how we are going to deal with the public health system. Here's how we're going to deal with the schools. Here's how we're going to accelerate vaccinations. And here's how we're going to explain it to people so people can understand it. We've practiced it. So when Donald Trump comes in, just like I handed him a good economy, I handed him this playbook, and he just, I guess, dropped it in the...
Why is Kamala good at the border? She's not. She caved. Didn't you hear me? She caved to Trump.
Now,
of anybody we're going to hear from tonight, the person with the best immigration policy was Obama. And that's a pretty low bar.
COVID was going to be a crisis.
But Obama talked about a pathway for citizenship. Obama talked about DACA, right? The Biden and Harris administration has basically caved into Trump on immigration. Like, there's no reason to be happy about anyone currently running for president on immigration.
In Canada,
Donald Trump
per capita death rate
proposed policy
was 60%.
to the Congress, which the House started to pass
I want you to do the math.
until Biden said that he would sign it. And then Donald Trump reversed course saying, don't pass that because we don't want the Biden-Harris administration to have a win. Now, I don't think it's a win. I think it's a sellout. I think it's a big fat L, right? But they are both scumbags. They're both lying to you. They're both insincere when it comes to immigration.
Some of those folks might be alive if we have a competent president.
Okay, so now he's talking about COVID. This is his best point.
And actually trying to make things better as opposed to telling people, go ahead and inject bleach.
This is the best point that he's going to make during this speech.
But now there are freaking communists invading.
So do not tell me that your vote doesn't matter.
And do not tell me that your liking the stream does not matter, because that matters a lot. It matters to me, it matters to YouTube, and it helps me out a lot. So if you could hit that like button, I would massively appreciate it.
Then you've got to tell them, no, having somebody who's competent and sees you and cares about you and thinks about you, it makes a difference.
But yeah, basically Obama drafted a plan for pandemic preparedness while he was in office, right? He was aware that a pandemic might happen because that's what scientists were saying. The more that climate change advances, the more likely that things like the COVID pandemic are to happen. So Obama drafted a plan.
And it is about...
Didn't use it because COVID didn't happen under Obama. It happened under Trump. But unfortunately for us, Trump took Obama's plan and he threw it in the fucking trash.
But I was lucky enough to have people around me.
And instead he just wish-casted that, oh no, it'll be over by March, it'll be over by April. Oh, maybe you can get it, maybe you can beat it with bleach. Maybe you could shine sunshine up your ass and cure yourself of COVID, right? All this fucking dog shit. Instead of actual policy that could have saved 600,000 people. 600,000 people, right, chat? So 1 million people in the US died during COVID, right? 1 million people died. If you look at Canada's rates of death, you see it's 60% below the United States. Canada did 60% better than the US when it came to handling COVID. So that means that there is blood on Trump's hands to the tune of 600,000 people. It could be your relatives, right? One in chat if you had a relative die during COVID. I know that we got people in here who had relatives die of COVID, right? Some of those people might still be around. if we hadn't had Donald Trump. So if you think that it doesn't matter, or you think that Donald Trump is a way to put your fucking thumb in the eye of the establishment or something like that, please think again.
And because
if you voted for that asshole in 2016,
about voter fraud in Michigan, protesters came down.
that's a vote that has
shouting, "Let us in."
a huge body count.
Poll workers inside.
600,000 people.
Earlier this month, we learned that someone on Trump's campaign told the lawyer to, quote, to find a reason to try to throw out votes, quote, even if it's BS. Hey, do not boo. Later.
This is his thing. He always says when people boo, he's like, don't boo, vote.
Quote, make people riot. All because Donald Trump couldn't accept losing. Right now we just saw one of the deadliest couple of hurricanes down in North Carolina, Florida. And while Biden and Harris are comforting families and trying to get aid, and FEMA workers trying to go out there, Donald Trump is making stuff up, saying,
Well, Davy, we've got a 60% disparity between
emergency funds to immigrants.
Between deaths in Canada and in the United States.
Republican counties. And so suddenly FEMA workers, emergency workers trying to help desperate people, are
And it's still killing people, yeah. 100%.
and people aren't applying for aid. When did that become okay?
So he's talking now about lies being spread
But I want us to
by MAGA. They're telling people not to accept federal aid from FEMA. They're telling people that their houses will get taken.
If your coworkers act like
And if you take that $750 emergency money from FEMA,
a family member who actually,
you'll get your house taken. They're getting in the way of aid.
but you wouldn't put
There's militias out there hunting down FEMA, making it impossible for them to help people out.
lies or cheats,
This shit is not normal.
utter disregard for
And we need to turn the page on this, because as bad as the Republicans were
losers.
under Bush, these MAGA Republicans are 1,000 times worse. They literally have a body count, right? I talked about the COVID stuff. I don't know
We act like it's
what their
okay.
body count was when it comes to the hurricane. But I do know that there's people who aren't getting help because MAGA has scared them,
You know, as long as we
or because militias are intimidating FEMA response crews.
And I've noticed this especially, you know, a while back I said this and some folks were all, you know, asking me questions about it, where I said, look, especially some men seem to think
Oh, here we go. Now, this is
somehow a sign of strength. You know, no. Look, I want to be clear. I want everybody to actually look at the record.
yeah. So Simone Pierre
On the issues.
is talking to us from Canada and is saying that
I've voted Republican in the past.
Simone doesn't think that Canada did a particularly good job on COVID, right?
But when I hear folks say,
So even Canada's response was a low bar.
vote for him just because
Davy Cliff super chatted $9.99. I'm sorry, but I think Bush has a bit higher of a body count.
You are probably, yeah, we're talking in the millions there, Davy Cliff. If you're talking about Iraq, you're right about that.
what real strength is. It never has been. Real strength is about working hard. All those guys showing up every day on the factory floor, busting their butts to support their families. That's real strength. Real strength.
And also Katrina.
Responsibility for your actions.
Also Bush's failed response to Hurricane Katrina. Racist response to Hurricane Katrina.
Truth, even when it's inconvenient. Real strength is about helping people who need it and standing up. For
All right, so again, chat, stick around. We're gonna finish up Obama. Kamala, I think, is gonna come on after this.
what we should want in our daughters and our sons.
And then we're gonna take a look at Ben Shapiro's appearance at UCLA.
Of America.
So Shapiro's lost some views recently. Ben Shapiro, not getting the same views that he used to. He's tried to go back to what he got big doing, which is bullying college students, right?
that you have
So
candidates
he appeared at the UCLA campus, invited by the Young America Foundation, and tried to get back to his same old bullshit, but it seems like some students were ready for him.
and leave this country better than they found it. And that is the choice in this election.
Yeah, Shakespeare, Afghanistan too.
That are on the ballot. It is about who we are. It is about what we stand for. So whether this election is making you feel excited or scared or hopeful or frustrated or anything in between.
It's making me feel sick at my stomach, honestly.
Hope for the best. I know I'm the hope guy, but don't just hope. Get off your couch and vote.
Hey, I'm hoping I don't have to leave the United States
Put down your phone and vote.
on November 6th.
Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States. Vote for Tim Walz as the next vice president of the United States. Vote for Alyssa Slotkin and this whole incredible Michigan Democratic ticket. Get your friends and family, neighbors, co-workers to do the same. Because if enough of us make our voices heard, we will leave no doubt
All right.
about the outcome of this election,
So I think he's winding up. Feels like he's winding up.
about who we are and what America stands for.
We'll see who comes on next.
Together we will keep building a country
It may be Waltz. It may be Kamala.
and more
peaceful up
equal
here,
and
but now
more
there are
free.
freaking
That is our
communists
job,
invading
Detroit.
radicals.
That is our job, Michigan. That's our responsibility.
Because it
Let's
was
get to
so
work.
peaceful up here, but now
Hey.
there are freaking communists invading radicals.
All right, so he's stepping off the stage. Wow. Seppi, thank you for following me on Twitch. We're growing massively, Chad. All those alerts that you're hearing, those are people subbing to me on YouTube. We're very close to 10,000, right? We're very close to crossing that threshold, making my channel 10,000 strong. So I'm really happy about that. Thank you so much for bringing me there, right? I never thought I'd be saying this, right? It took me a long time to get to 1,000 views. It took me maybe even a longer time to get to 2,000 views, but the trip from 2,000 to 10,000 has actually been pretty quick. We've been growing fast, so thank you to everybody who's hit that subscribe button. And if you want to be the 10,000th person, now might be a good time to subscribe. I should do something special for the 10,000th person. Anyway, yeah, we're almost there. So that's Obama. He just got done speaking. Now this is a Kamala Harris rally. They're saying a Harris-Waltz rally. So it may be that Tim Waltz comes on next, or it may be that Kamala Harris comes on next. I am actually not sure. We already heard Eminem speak, and if it's Waltz, I'll probably dip and go do the Shapiro content because I want to make sure to see that. We've got to cover Ethan Klein Hassan, so make sure to stick around even for that because that's what we'll be doing after the God, we got to cover the Univision thing sometime, and we also got to cover Trump's barbershop debacle. We covered the McDonald's thing a couple of days ago. Got a video out on that if you want to check that out on my channel, right? I think it's one of the better videos I've done. It's one of the videos that I was like, usually with my videos, I have to edit them heavily. This time, I was just so on that I think I made a pretty entertaining video of the Trump McDonald's encounter, and so I just clipped it at the beginning and the end, and so sad that Patreon you won't be getting an extended version of that video because that video is the extended version, but normally my Patreons get the videos first. They get the uncensored version, so anytime I get spicy and say a curse word, that stays in. And kind of an extended version too, because I don't cut out anything in the videos that I put up on Patreon. So if you want to get that, you can support me on Patreon at any level, really. Like, right, we've got a $3 tier. We got where you get the videos early. We got a $5 tier where you get a fancy shout out every single time that I stream. And we got a fancy level where we're trying to do a Discord like sort of meetup at the fancy level, where after stream one day, I go into Discord and talk to all the people that support me at the fancy level. That's a little bit more expensive, but I think it's well worth it. But we're trying to get that going. We've got 2 fancy weasels, so we're almost there. Yeah, so there goes Obama. I guess he's gonna shake people's hands and stuff. You know, I'm actually kind of surprised that there hasn't been more events like what you saw with the Butler, Pennsylvania with Trump. Oh my God, Omega Star, thank you for. I think it will be fun too. Yeah. If everybody's I know that Zara doesn't. Zara probably won't be up for after this stream, but gotta figure out a time to do it. Maybe it'll have to be before the stream. But yeah, I mean, like these situations, right, with multiple high profile figures, you know, speaking. I feel like been kind of lucky that there hasn't been more events like Butler, right, on both sides, honestly, because there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of hate from. In fact, the funny thing about Trump's. Oh my God. Terror Uwoism, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. So yeah, we're just waiting to see who comes on next, right? Obama's taking his time, shaking some hands. Looks like he really missed campaigning. But I'm curious who's coming on after. Like they had a ton of people speak before Obama or before Eminem came out and introduced Obama. I don't know. Is Eminem going to come out again maybe and introduce Kamala? I'm not entirely sure how this is going to go, chat. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. We're streaming today on twitch.tv, on youtube.com, and on YouTube's live streams, shorts streams. So you can watch me in a bunch of different ways. You can watch me in a vertical format, as some of you are doing. You can watch me in a horizontal format, as those of you on the regular YouTube stream and the Twitch stream are doing. You know, whatever you're watching, if one of those is more comfortable for you. What? The live event has ended? What the fuck? Okay. Well, I feel silly now. I feel I don't know if Detroit Free Press is just gonna do another stream for Kamala and/or Waltz. I feel okay. Well, like I said, chat, I got more content for you here. We're gonna take a look at Ben Shabibo. We're gonna take a look at what Shabibo is up to. If I can find it here. That's the Univision thing. Yeah, how wokeness ruined UCLA. Ha ha ha.
It was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking
Any Shabibo fans in chat? We're gonna see Ben. We're gonna see Ben.
Because it was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
His beautiful face. There we go.
It was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
I appreciate all the support, chat. I appreciate all the support. Any moment now, we're gonna get over 10,000. I feel like we're probably less than 100 away from that. So yeah, keep those subscriptions coming. It means a lot to me, and you may be the one to push me over the 10,000 you know, line, right? We're all right. So this is the Glup Shittos. There we go. There's Benny Shapiro. I call people Glup Shitto, chat. It's a reference to Star Wars. Glup Shitto is everybody's favorite character, but you have to be like a real Star Wars fan to know who Glup Shitto is, right? And so that's what I'm saying about people when they're coming out to introduce the more notable people like Shapiro or like Obama or whatever, right? Is that they're like the deep cuts in Star Wars, the Star Wars fandom. It's like, oh boy, it's Glup Shitto. My favorite Star Wars character. All right, so here's Ben Shapiro. Let's see what he's got to say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben. USA.
That's very sweet of you. Thank you so much.
But yeah, thank you for the gifties, Terror Uwoism.
First, I want to say thank you to YAF, of course, for all of their hard work on campus. Thanks to all of you for coming out. I know
So YAF is the Young America's Foundation.
they're still slowly allowing.
Oh my God, we gotta.
They are trying to hold some hundreds of students outside. They're letting them in 20 at a time, so I'll speak a little slower than usual, which...
It's difficult for Ben Shapiro.
To thank the anonymous sponsor of the Things That Matter lecture series.
Anonymous sponsor? Okay.
I have a lot of amazing memories from this particular campus. I originally came to this campus in the year 2000, so it's been quite a while. I was 16
All right, let's try this.
at the time. And yeah, I have some great memories here.
Is that better, chat?
Right next door to this campus. Right off campus here. I used to bring her dinner at Powell Library while she was studying for her biology classes after I came back from law school. A lot of great things happened to me on this particular campus. I have a lot of fondness for this campus. And then I have some bad memories as well from this particular campus. So back in 2002, I used to write for the UCLA Daily Bruin. What actually got me into politics was the craziness of this campus. When I first came to UCLA at the age of 16, I thought I was going to double major in music. I was a fairly good violinist at the time. I was going to double major in music and biology. And none of those two things came true because I was walking down Bruin Walk.
All right, here we go.
Of the Daily Bruin, and there was an editorial comparing Ariel Sharon, then the Prime Minister of Israel, to Adolf Eichmann, the Nazi. And I promptly walked into the UCLA Daily Bruin offices and asked if I could write a counter. And at the time they said yes. That turned into a regular column, which turned into eventually my syndicated column. But the reason I stopped writing for the UCLA Daily Bruin is of some note.
So yeah, no, he's talking about Sharon, definitely a further to the left sort of leader of Israel than Netanyahu and the current far right cabinet that he's got, the current far right coalition. But it's an important point. I feel like the people that were concerned about Ariel Sharon were proven right. The more left wing Israeli government of yesteryear is kind of what got us to this far-right government of today, where Benjamin Netanyahu is bragging about having forestalled a two-state solution. The two-state solution was the like centrist compromise, right? What really needs to happen is that Israel needs to drop its apartheid, stop being an ethno-state, and enfranchise Palestinians everywhere and give them the right to vote, right? Jewish people have the right to live there. They've been living there for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So do Muslim people. So do Christian people, right? Instead of being an ethno state, instead of being a weird apartheid state where you can't walk down certain streets if you're Muslim, it should do what South Africa did at the very least, right, chat? And I realize as I'm saying South Africa still has problems. South Africa still has a lot of remnants from apartheid, even though apartheid is not the law of the land. But at the very least, they should take down the apartheid, which that's on no one's mind. But the important thing to remember, right, is that some of the more the more liberal Zionism, while it comes with like we're going to see from Ethan Klein today, with the notion that Palestinians should not be ethnically cleansed from Gaza the way that the Netanyahu government is doing right now.
It was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communists invading.
While it's less objectionable than Netanyahu's policy, that's what that's what brought us to the place that we're at now, right?
Communist invading radicals.
And my problem with Zionism, and this is a big topic of controversy right now, with the Ethan Klein Hassan controversy, my problem with Zionism is that it is what I mean by Zionism is I mean defense of the apartheid government in Israel, right? There's a bunch of different meanings kind of kicking around, and people don't exactly know what that means, but to me that's the most sensible definition of what it means. It means it's talking about a settler colonialist project that has that has displaced people from their homes, and that's what needs to be struggled against. Not anti-Zionism, in other words, is not anti-Semitism, and that's where the rubber meets the road as far as the Ethan Klein Hassan Piker controversy, which we'll be getting into later today. Anyway, let's see what Benny Shapiro has to say.
Who were involved in the encampment and peaceful protests. Peaceful would be a euphemism there for totally not particularly peaceful. So The reason I'm
I mean,
telling
it's
these stories is because
hard to be a peaceful encampment when you're getting attacked by like brown shirts, when you're getting attacked, like they literally got attacked by like thugs, right? These encampments, because they were bringing attention to what's going on in Gaza, got fucking attacked at UCLA. There's video, you can watch this shit, right? There was an MMA fighter that showed up literally just to fight people at the encampment, right? It's such bullshit that they put these encampments under siege, and then when the encampment tries to defend itself, tries to like gatekeep who's going in, they're like, oh, look at this, they're keeping Jewish students out. There's a ton of Jewish students in the encampment. Some of the biggest organizations, as far as the Free Palestine movement, are Jewish organizations. And that gets completely erased by assholes like this.
Various reasons, really only one reason, to associate with one another. People who would never get along in regular life, except they share one thing, and that is hatred of the system. Take, for example, Queers for Palestine, the most self-contradictory group in the history of all groups. It's chickens for KFC.
I'm sorry, no, it's actually solidarity. And what that means is that you will stand up against the genocide of a group of people, even if you perceive that group of people as not 100% standing up for you, even if you perceive like, the customs or the laws or whatever of a group of people to be, not entirely like in line with like queer liberation. That's where solidarity starts from, right? And it has an effect, because when you stand up for another group that's being subjected to ethnic fucking cleansing, those people might take another, thought about, your queer identity and how they feel about that, right? That's how solidarity starts, and where it goes is to a liberation of all of us. But it's got to start somewhere, and you can't expect, you can't hold people up to a standard of like, a perfection in order to say that they're worth being defended against ethnic cleansing or against genocide.
The United States and in Western civilization generally is a battle between what I call the lions and the scavengers, people who actually like to produce, people who wish to build social fabric, people who wish to fight for central principles of Western civilization, and people who only care about tearing all of those things down.
Yeah, that's weird. The lions thing implies like predation, exploitation, which he seems to have no problem with, right? But then the opponents are the scavengers.
You owe to other people. There is just the stuff you want.
It's pretty dehumanizing shit.
What you want is what matters. Who you are is a series of wants, in fact. And anyone who denies you those wants is in some way oppressing and exploiting you. That is belief number one. Belief number two is that all disparity equals discrimination. That if there is a disparity between groups along any lines, that must be the result of exploitation and discrimination. So if one group is economically underperforming, it's not because...
So he wants to believe instead in the superiority of certain groups, right? That's...
It must instead be that the system is built in order to exploit that oppressed group of people.
So it's not the system, it's the inherent superiority and inferiority of different groups. This is Nazi shit. He's going to talk about anti-Semitism, right? Without acknowledging the root of that philosophy, which is the... it's calling a group of people inferior.
It does not exist. It's not real. So if you were to look at, for example, Asian Americans, historically victimized in the United States, disproportionately educationally successful, they're no longer Asian. They're now white adjacent. They don't count because you cannot have a group that violates the rules. Any group that is successful is a victimizer. So if you can identify a group that is successful and that is not a victimizer and is in fact disproportionately a victim group, that group does not exist. Jews, therefore...
Yeah, Asian Americans have been victimized quite recently. During the pandemic, there was a lot of anti-Asian hate, a lot of blaming, China. I mean, starting from the president at the time, Donald Trump, calling it the China virus, right? And going down to, people who there were hate attacks on Asian people, based on the anti-Asian rhetoric, based on Trump's rhetoric.
And are therefore here to tear away at the system. There are some of those people. And there's good data to suggest that many of the protests that we've been seeing on campus are actually sponsored from abroad. An official of Hezbollah, the Lebanese terrorist group, the Iranian front group, recently admitted that they have been funding student protests from abroad via front groups. Again, that's nothing new. This has been happening for decades. Avril Haines, who's the director of national intelligence, confirms that some of these protests have been funded by Iran. There's nothing new here. It just used to be that in the United States, we didn't tolerate that sort of thing. It used to be that in the United States, if you came here, we had a general rule. You have to like the place. And if you don't like...
What the fuck is he saying? What the fuck? You know what? If you come to the United States in the midst of Jim Crow and you say, I like the place, and by that you mean you like the, you know, the quasi-apartheid system that we got in place, that's kind of fucked up. That's kind of fucked up. And if you come to the United States and you get discriminated against because of your background, and you say, I like this place, meaning you like being discriminated against, I mean, that's a pretty weak place. You know, that's a real lack of advocacy for yourself, right? The United States should be about advocating, at the very least, for a cessation of discrimination.
These Marxists do not like the West. They think that capitalism is the root of all evil, and they are willing to ally with just about anyone if it means they get to tear away at what they believe is the capitalist...
Capitalism is only one manifestation of the actual root of all evil, which is unjust hierarchies. Unjustified hierarchies, right? Now, what's a justified hierarchy? Well, like, I mean, if you're a parent and your kid runs across the street, you should probably have the hierarchy over your kid to pull them back out of the street before they get run over. They want to touch a hot burner on the stove, right? You know, yeah, that hierarchy is easily, you know, shown how that's justified, right? But when you're not talking about that, and you're saying, well, this, you know, this family has a hierarchy over this family because this family's got money, you know, please show me the justification for Donald Trump and his family of fucking fail son and daughter mutants to have a hierarchy over the rest of us. I don't think that Donald Trump's weird ass family is better than you, chat. I don't, and that's the hierarchy that capitalism, you know, pushes forward. They're literally, like, if you look at Ayn Rand, maybe an extreme form of capitalism, her objectivism, her, you know, some people associate it with libertarianism. Some libertarians don't like to be associated with Ayn Rand. She was buried with a $sign draped over her coffin. You don't want to know why? Because she thought that money, wealth, was the best stand-in for a person's worth, for how good a person is. How much money do you have? And that's, you know, an extreme version of capitalism, but you know, it kind of shows you something about the capitalist mentality and where it leads, which is to, you know, eugenics, which is what her book Atlas Shrugged was about. Literally, the rich going off into Galt's Gulch in order to starve out the poor, and the poor building a giant $shaped monument to show their contrition, to show that they finally realize that the rich are better than you, and that your whole life is you know, thanks to the rich, rather than it being the other way around, right, chat? If you're working class, you build stuff, you make stuff, you create value. If you're rich like Donald Trump, you got soft hands because you've never done anything your whole fucking life. And Ben Shapiro, I can see, has some soft hands, right? He's not producing anything. In fact, what he's doing is justifying unjustifiable hierarchies. That's what he's here at UCLA to do. So anyway, I'm talking too much.
Lions. Okay, lions are a different type of human being. Okay, anybody can...
It's just like makers and takers discourse.
People make themselves one or the other. You make yourself in your life the choice between being a lion or being a scavenger. Lions are people who build. Lions are people who defend the civilization that has given them...
But the thing is, the wealthy don't build shit. They don't build shit, right? They're dependent on the workers. It's not how Ayn Rand saw it, where the workers are dependent on the capitalist class, where the capitalist class are somehow better than the rest of us, right? As shown by their ability to accumulate dollar off of exploitation, right? The capitalist system, while not the worst thing in the world, while a great improvement on feudalism and other modes of production, right? Capitalism, a capitalist economy, better than a slave economy. I think we can all agree on that. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's still not fair. And it still leaves a class of people who produce nothing, who create nothing, and that all they do is fucking exploit the rest of us at the top. That is in my mind, an unjustifiable hierarchy. That is the kind of hierarchy that I am against.
And I will say this, not just warriors on behalf of the United States, but warriors on behalf of the West in general. I had the experience fairly recently, it was back in June, of visiting Israel in the middle of this war. And
okay, so now we're going to be talking about Western civilization, which he, it includes Israel I mean, honestly, like when you look at the project, the Zionist project, now, chat, just to make sure we're on, I'm not using Zionist as a stand-in for anything else. When I say Zionism, I say somebody who endorses the settler colonial project of establishing an apartheid ethno-state in Palestine. But honestly, I'm not super hung up on what you call that area of land. I'm hung up on how people are treated there. I'm hung up on the fact that Palestinian families have been moved and dispossessed in a, series of historical events not that different than the United States settler colonialism against native peoples in this country, right? So that's my problem with Zionism. But Shapiro sees this as an extension of the West into the Middle East. And that is in a large way in line with what Joe Biden said. Joe Biden famously said in the 1980s that if Israel did not exist, the United States would need to invent Israel because it is such a goddamn useful chess piece on the map of world domination, of which Biden, as a adherent of the military-industrial complex and United States hegemony over the world, was very much in favor of. So Israel is great because it allows the West, if you want to see things like that, and I think it's a pretty racist way to look at things, it allows the West to project power into the not West, into the Middle East, which is important in the 20th century because of the amount of oil that exists there, the amount of resources that exist there because of its strategic location between the enemies of the the Soviet Union and China, the enemies of Western hegemony, and the West.
Change the world in such a way that I make the world a better place. These are the people who live, some of them very famous lives, and some of them very, very quiet lives of just building their community. And then they're buried by their family. And what goes on their gravestone is beloved wife or beloved mother or beloved husband or beloved son. And those people build community. And then finally, lions on...
I'm sorry, I got to point out here. I know I'm talking too much, but the this building of community, what he's talking about is like grave markers and stuff, is not being allowed to happen in Gaza right now. Graveyards have been rolled over along with every other civic institution, whether it be a college, whether it be a hospital. It's being currently destroyed by the IDF in an attempt to erase not just life in Gaza, not just civic existence, right? But the memory, right? When you roll over and erase someone's graveyard that their grandparents are buried in, you're erasing the memory of life in that place. And that is the project. That is the project that Israel is engaged in right now in Gaza.
Because that's the choice, especially in front of young people. Are you going to be a useful person or are you going to be a worse than useless person?
See, this is fucking eugenics he's talking.
Most of the skills that God gave you.
Are you a useful person? Yeah, I think the fuck so.
Be a person who decides that it's your job in the name of social justice to tear down all the systems of merit that actually make the world a better place for yourself.
See, when you call those merit, you're ignoring the fact that some hierarchies are unjustified. In fact, a lot of hierarchies that exist today are unjustified.
Now, for those who disagree with some of what I say, at least we should be able to agree on one thing, that individual initiative, hard work, good, solid choices, decent virtues, membership in a community that matters. These are the things that are going to build up this country and make our civilization a better place, not the endless acidic cynicism that you see from the radical left.
I don't think there's anything acidic or cynical about solidarity. I think that's the base from which we've got to start to build a moral society, not some kind of fucking test that Shapiro applies to you on whether you're a useful citizen or not. I don't apply that test to you, Chad. I make the assumption that you are that, like, I don't think of my fellow human beings along the lines of whether they're useful to me or not, right?
Please line up at the.
And I think it's pretty monstrous to have that mentality. So he's going to bring out students. This is what he started with, right? Tearing down college students on their way to class, to try to show this like intellectual dominance. Because what Ben Shapiro does is he represents intellect to people without any education. People who want to think it's college students, like somehow they're not smart, right? I know they got this education. I know they got these, these diplomas, right? But they're actually really fucking dumb. And I'm not missing anything by not going to college, when in actuality, you may be missing the critical thinking skills necessary to debunk the kind of bullshit that is put forth to you by charlatans like Ben Shapiro, by charlatans like Jordan Peterson, whose ability to be perceived as intelligence relies on their ability to talk fast and talk well. That is what some people, especially people without an education, will mistake for intelligence, will mistake for somebody knowing what they're talking about. So this is a show of dominance here, of, a display of intelligence, having all the trappings of what we think of as intelligent. You talk fast, you talk smart, you use words that are slightly over the vocabulary level of your listener, and you will be perceived as intelligent, just like Ben Shapiro is, just like Jordan Peterson is. And there's people on the left that do this too, chat. Lest we forget Destiny, a profoundly ignorant person, much on the same tip as Ben Shapiro. So I'm not using this as a stand-in for ideology and saying that there aren't people on the left that operate in this way too. There absolutely are, and we'll get into Destiny and Ethan Klein and all that a little bit later. But
a good way to characterize that rule. And I think there ought to be 70, 80% unity on questions like that. And if you can't get the other 20%, well, tough. That's kind of life. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it.
Good evening, Ben. My name is Alex. Very nice to meet you, sir. So I'm a Roman Catholic, and I know that you've had many conversations with Catholics, such as Bishop Robert Barron and Matt Fradd. And so my question is, how have those conversations impacted your understanding of who Jesus Christ is and the church that he started?
That's a weird question for a Jewish guy. But again, this coalition that he's trying to build is, with hardline religious conservatives everywhere. So he's going to play ball with this, right? Just like he does on the Daily Wire with some of the tradcaths there. Which the irony of this is that, like, he's sort of getting in, he's making common cause with people who, a lot of whom do not respect him as a Jewish person. Whether you're talking about Christian evangelicals who look at Jewish people again as a chess piece. Like, their role is to fulfill the prophecy to allow Jesus Christ to return to earth by being in Israel and bringing about the Battle of Armageddon, in which 2/3 of them are supposed to perish, according to the religious evangelical doctrine, the conservative evangelical doctrine of a lot of these people. And the remaining third, what happens to them? They convert to Christianity. Right. So it's a weird coalition. It's a really strange coalition. I mean, like, I think I would feel insulted by a religious group that thought of my identity as being useful only in fulfilling their prophecy, and that the ultimate fate of my people was either to convert or die. I would be insulted. Apparently, Ben Shapiro does not feel that way.
To support him, partly because far-right groups such as white nationalists like Nick Fuentes seem to rally behind Trump. Why do you think these groups, though small in number, are more drawn to Trump than any past candidate?
So,
good question.
At this point, my understanding is Nick Fuentes.
Good question.
Donald Trump. He actually unendorsed Donald Trump, and he suggested to his followers that they campaign against Donald Trump. So that is worth pointing out. And the reason is because Donald Trump happens to be too philo-Semitic. Mm-hmm. He's explicitly said this. So, I think that there's a
That's part of it. The other part of it is Donald Trump. So he's talking about Nick Fuentes. If you don't know who Nick Fuentes is, if you don't know what the Groyper movement is, then you're lucky. Consider yourself lucky. You're not as online as me, but I can explain it to you, right? Yeah, it's a far-right fascist organization that uses dog whistles incorporating Christianity. So one of the things they'll say is Christ is king. Now that might sound like a verse out of the Bible. And if you're Christian, you might be like, well, yeah, King of King, Lord of Lords. I agree with that, right? But what they're using it for is a dog whistle to signal to other Nazis, to other fascists out there that they have this belief. Nick Fuentes' separation and his disendorsement of Donald Trump comes from what Ben Shapiro said in that, Trump is pro-Israel, right? That's one of the aspects of it, right? But the other aspect of it is actually about abortion. Donald Trump, after having caught the car, like a dog chasing a car, that it's fine as long as the dog doesn't catch the car. But if the dog catches the car, if the dog bites the car wheel, right, that dog's going to get fucked up. And the Republican Party got fucked up by finally nominating 3 Supreme Court justices and overturning Roe versus Wade. This has become a problem for the Republican Party. This has gotten in the way of their ability to win elections. In fact, the red wave that they were due for in the last election did not ever manifest. They won much fewer seats than they were projected to win because of the pushback against the tearing down of Roe versus Wade. So after seeing this, Donald Trump has tried to pivot, has tried to gaslight people into thinking that he is not the one who overturned Roe versus Wade, despite the fact he is. He'll say things like, it's up to the states. It's supposed to be up to the states. We want it up to, I'm not against abortion rights. Don't worry. If your state is a state that doesn't allow abortion under any circumstances, like the state of Georgia, which recently caused the death of a young woman who had to travel to North Carolina to get a procedure, an emergency procedure that she needed, and ended up bleeding to death on the way back. If you're in that situation, don't worry. Just wait. Eventually, they'll make the laws more lenient, right? And he calls himself the father of IVF, despite the fact that tearing down Roe versus Wade has also allowed states like Alabama to make IVF illegal. So that's why Nick Fuentes, right? What Shapiro said and what I'm saying about abortion, those are the two reasons. Those are the two things that Fuentes doesn't like about Trump.
Is taking measures that completely quash the American economy in the name of a change that will be incremental at best. If the United States, for example, were to hold by the commitments of the Kyoto protocols, then the United States would be responsible for destroying essentially its own economy and would marginally change over the course of the next century climate change, because it turns out that the climate is global. And so China is still
almost like he's now this is weird about him, right? He seems to believe that climate change is real, ostensibly man-made, created by the activity of human beings, right? This is not something that most conservatives are in line with, but he's trying to say that at this point it doesn't matter, right? That the harm to the economy is something that can't be justified by the improvement to the environment. But again, storms like the one that the United States Southeast has just experienced are caused by a warming of the waters in the Gulf of Mexico. In other words, hurricanes get their strength from the from the waters in which they develop, and actually those waters being warmer makes the hurricane stronger. So yes, climate change does have some real effects that people in the South, if you live in the Southeast, you might have just experienced this.
Deeply about climate change.
But he's trying to say it's too late? It doesn't matter?
Adjusted border tax. So if China is using coal, you just tax the imports that use coal. That's what the European Union is doing.
And it's been wildly ineffective at getting China to actually lower its coal usage, for example. So it has not been an effective approach. The truth is, human beings are really, really bad at mitigation and really, really good at adaptation. And so
he's saying adapt to the stronger hurricanes, right? Just adapt. Oh my God, this is so bad. You're getting a cognitive dissonance vibe. Yeah, me too. I don't want to stay in this too long. We gotta cover Ethan Klein.
That they outweigh the actual impact of climate change financially speaking. Right? It's not me saying that. William Nordhaus has made that claim, won the Nobel Prize in economics a few years back for making quite similar claims. It's a book called Climate Casino, worth checking out.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the Ben Shapiro reading list. I'm looking for a particular student to stand up that...
I'm a first-time voter, and speaking as a conservative in deeply blue California,
I might have to fast forward.
What you had to say about the Electoral College, because...
Oh, wait a minute.
I'm a liberal.
Well, thanks for coming.
Pronoun. Hi, Ben. My name is Tammy. I'm a liberal.
Well, thanks for coming.
Pronouns she, her. I know that might give you trouble.
Now, okay, so I want to point out something, all right? So some of you might be assuming that because this this questioner might, you know, she said she's a liberal, so...
It doesn't. I can speak English.
I just want people to know that not all trans people are on the left, right? There's some examples, you know, Blair White, for instance, a very right-wing trans woman.
Thank you. So... I appreciate
but no, she has said that she's liberal, so
what you said,
as long as she's not like an Anna Kasparian liberal.
About the coalition of losers who hate the Western values, I'd like to add Donald Trump and his supporters to that club. So...
Oh shit, those fighting words.
Guys, go easy.
Fighting words.
Easy on him, he's sensitive.
I'm curious, let's hear it.
Go easy on him, yeah.
Donald Trump's conduct was knowingly criminal and knowingly criminal.
I will say this is not an easy crowd to walk into. This is not a, you know, Ben Shapiro is like sort of known for dunking on college students.
Not only on January 6th, but in the lead up to January 6th with the false elector scheme. You, on a previous podcast with Lex Friedman, said, admitting that he was testing the boundaries of our constitutional system, and the only reason that he didn't get away with it because the guardrails held. Now, after the Supreme Court immunity ruling and the fact that he has a new VP who said he would go along with such schemes, there are no longer such guardrails. So would you now denounce that Donald Trump is a danger to democracy and ask him to drop out?
Nope. So let me explain why. Okay.
Yeah.
So you point out two reasons that factors have changed, presumably, since 2021. The factor that you first cited was the Supreme Court ruling in which you suggest that the president has immunity, sort of blanket immunity. First of all, it's not what the Supreme Court decision says. What the Supreme Court decision actually does is...
Blanket immunity in official acts, yeah.
One is an
official
category of executive action. Let's say the president sideswipes somebody with his automobile. Is he now free of manslaughter charges?
So the answer is no, because it's not an official act. Yeah.
That's not inside the constitutional boundaries. Then there is stuff that is clearly protected.
He's literally going to justify this bullshit. This Nixonian bullshit.
Military, he has the capacity to do that in his capacity as commander-in-chief. That's clearly protected. And then there's a big gray area. That's stuff where, say, the president of the United States gives an illegal order to somebody in the executive branch.
Like Donald Trump.
Does he get automatic immunity? He does not get automatic immunity. Then you are able to show that he actually, that it would be a threat, that he'd have to show that it would be a threat to the constitutional order not to stop him. So precisely the reverse would have been true for Donald Trump in 2021. If he'd gotten away with it, that would have been a threat to the constitutional order, in my view. So that would not have.
He literally thinks
executive immunity, which is why this was remanded back
that the Trump Supreme Court,
where Judge Chutkan,
the MAGA Supreme Court, would have actually come down on Donald Trump.
Okay, putting on my lawyer hat, that's the actual legal case. Then you make a second contention with regard to...
It kind of doesn't matter if the Attorney General is so weak that they can't bring these cases to...
Now he's going to surround himself with...
with the VP, yeah. So the Electoral Count Reform Act did pass early on in the Biden administration. That wildly restricts the ability of the vice president to do anything. He has a constitutional duty now to certify the state vote, and the state legislature certifies that vote. So Congress can't actually hold that up. So the guardrails...
So now this is all moot, right? Trump staying in office for another 4 years is not an issue.
I'm one of the few conservative commentators who said I really didn't like any of what he was saying.
Yeah, and then you walked it back.
January 6th.
You walked it back.
I thought that he was making specious legal claims and all of the rest. Okay,
look, he was ready to smoke that Trump pack, but Republicans decided to stick with Trump, and he did too.
People gutting the institutions and then wearing them around as skin suits. So, for example, the Biden administration trying to use...
Oh, yeah, the Biden administration. That's who we got to worry about.
...cram down vaccine mandates on 80 million Americans.
No, this questioner is good.
For example, the Biden administration
she's making him sweat.
mobilizing the Department of Justice against.
I mean, he's still able to kind of bullshit his way through this, but
suggest that Donald Trump is going to do that when he actually did not do that while he was president, but Joe Biden actually has.
Donald Trump
under his
did-
yeah, Joe Biden's a huge threat to democracy.
To file charges against Hillary Clinton.
That is untrue.
No.
If he actually he was going to do that in 2016, and then he never did that. That is not
He
true.
was unable to do that. Is not the same.
No, he
as
didn't
not
actually even
trying
try to do that. Jeff Sessions turned him down on many things. He didn't even make an effort to investigate Hillary Clinton under the DOJ. It's a critique actually many Republicans have of Donald Trump.
There's more coming out about the fact that that Trump did try to push
powers of the executive power related
Sure.
to immunity. So you yourself said that using drones, using the military is a core part of the executive branch and therefore is covered by immunity.
Depends on the function of the military. So if you were to if I were to order SEAL Team 6 to say kill my political opponent, that would not be protected. And the way you know that's not protected, by the way, is because Joe Biden has not used SEAL Team 6 to kill Donald Trump.
If that's the case, then why didn't?
Oh yeah, because he would do that otherwise, right?
When that specific point was brought up in the immunity case.
Because Justice Roberts has a philosophy of judicial restraint that means that he likes to kick stuff back to the lower courts until.
I'm sorry, I don't know how Justice Roberts started. Some of his earlier rulings are better,
things ambiguous and then
but he's MAGA pilled now.
The legal term is
Right, that's a George W. Bush justice.
I want to make sure other people have time, but
Thank you for your time.
All right, so we're gonna watch one more.
By the Egyptians, it was in fact Tel Aviv and Haifa.
We're gonna do one more question here from the audience, right? And then we're gonna move on. We're gonna be talking about Ethan Klein and Hassan after this.
I go to Biola University in La Mirada, California. I want to ask you, as an American Jew, how can you continue to condone the actions of the Israeli government, condoned by the U.S. government, in the Gaza Strip, where over 40,000 people have died, including Palestinians?
That's a very low estimate, yeah, but
large numbers of children and civilians. How can you continue to condone those actions?
Okay, so
more accurate estimates estimated in six figures.
Of the Israeli Defense Forces and the Israeli government, I celebrate and laud them.
There he goes. So he's a fan of ethnic cleansing.
I'm not.
He's a fan of human rights violations.
On October 7th, Hamas launched the most deadly war on Jews since the Holocaust. They killed 1,200 innocent people. They took 250 hostages. 100 of them are still being held hostage.
He never mentions how many of those dead were killed by Israeli Defense Forces, which is a non-zero number. I can't tell you what the number is because getting any information out of
the Israeli government to surrender just because terrorists are evil enough to hide behind civilians. The Israeli government.
Yeah, he's using the human shields canard.
That it has managed the best civilian to terrorist kill ratio.
Oh my god, best kill ratio? What are you playing, a video game? You sick fuck. You sick fuck.
Personally know soldiers who have gone door to door in the Gaza Strip who have risked their own lives to prevent civilian death. Israel has complete and utter air superiority over the Gaza Strip.
And this after we've learned that one of the roles in the IDF
hit all their leadership while their people suffered.
is running militarized bulldozers which run over not just bodies, but living people in Gaza.
They would have had the ability to commit full-scale human atrocities.
The atrocities that are going on in Gaza are so bad, they're causing PTSD to Israeli forces.
Believe it or not, there have been more births in the Gaza Strip since the beginning of this war than
oh my god, I hate this shit. So, yeah, but this is there we go. If the number goes up, then it's not a genocide. He's going by a misunderstanding of what genocide is, right? So the really not intelligent version of what is a genocide, eliminating an entire group of people from the face of the earth, right? That's not what Nazi Germany did, because they weren't able to accomplish that. Does that mean that what Nazi Germany perpetrated was not a genocide? No, it was. We call it a genocide. We don't call it an attempted genocide. We call it a genocide, right? And this whole idea that there's some level of death and destruction that okay, now it's a genocide. The phrase "never again" is interpreted by different people in different ways. Some people, take it as never again. Must this happen to the Jewish people? Some people, say, never again is like the aspirational goal, right? But some people interpret it as a promise. And in order to keep that promise, which I think it is, I want to interpret never again as a promise, right? You've got to call out a genocide before it gets into some of the latter stage. This has been studied, right? This is an academic area of the genocide studies, right? People study genocides because unfortunately there have been a lot of them. And for those of us who don't want them to happen again, it is incumbent to recognize the process early on. Now, I think that what's going on in Gaza has, it is already at that point. But in fact, the ICJ has blown the whistle on this. They take a long time to make their determination, so they haven't called it a genocide yet. But they have blown the whistle on, these are the conditions that create a genocide. But goddamn, this is a fucking this is just like this idea that like, oh well, the number goes up, so therefore it can't. What kind of genocide does the number like unless they're literally reducing the number of Palestinians alive, right? And it's not a genocide. What kind of batshit? What kind of monstrous philosophy is this?
Israel is being more meticulous in the conduct of this war.
The most moral army, I know.
Than any army in human history, and certainly than the United States Army in its vast role in the history of urban combat.
That's a pretty fucking low bar, Ben.
That is uncontested.
Yeah, there are a lot of the mistakes that are being made right now in Israel are the same kind of things that went on in the United States after the Twin Tower, after the planes hit the towers, right? A lot of the same justifications, a lot of the same, and the expansion of the war into like multiple countries, into multiple fronts. The assumption that if you can kill the leaders of opposition groups, that's some kind of victory, despite the fact that they did just that. France did just that in Algeria, in the Algerian War, and they lost that conflict ultimately. Right. This is not just immoral. It goes against the modern understanding of counterinsurgency. As far as how that works. Right. You can kill leaders of a movement, but you cannot kill a movement. And the more impact there is on civilians, right, the more civilians that you justify murdering on the way towards that, the less likely that your counterinsurgent action is to even work. Anyway, this is just clearly nothing has been learned from history. Chat, this is depressing. I gotta call it. All right, we're gonna move into the full scale stream on YouTube. If you're watching me on Shorts chat, you're welcome to stick around. I will give you the URL. God damn, I didn't realize how dark that was gonna get. People had been talking about that particular questioner, and so I wanted to make sure to see that. But there's your URL if you want to click that. That's probably the easiest way to get into there. You can also watch me on Twitch too. I've got my Twitch link up there in the pinned comment, but I'm going to switch the pinned comment now to the YouTube pinned comment. So if you want to watch me on YouTube, it's nocommentchick CC. If you want to watch me, on Twitch, it's nocommentchick CC. If you want to watch me on YouTube, it is nocommentchick. But I'm also streaming on Full Scale, so if you want to join us there, feel welcome to do that. We're going to be talking about the conflict that's going on right now, the controversy between Ethan Klein, Hassan Piker, and streamer Destiny. So if that sounds like it's interesting to you, go ahead and click that link. If you got other things to do, totally understand. Thanks for dropping by. Make sure to leave a like on your way out, and make sure to sub to the channel so that you can get notifications right there in your box, so you'll know when I go live next time. Much appreciation to everybody. Much appreciation to the mods. Everybody give the mods a hand. The mods did a lot, right? Keeping the conversation manageable, right? Because if you don't, when you got how many people did we have? We had, oh my god, chat, we had 1,000. Yeah, we had 1,000 in chat today, so pretty big stream. Thank you to the mods for keeping everything together, and I'm gonna end the short stream right now. We're going to move into the full-scale stream. You can watch me on YouTube. You can watch me on Twitch. But the short stream is ending. So if you're in that, maybe think about switching over. If not, I'm glad to have talked to you today. I hope I made you think. That's my goal, and I'll see you the next time I'm streaming in shorts. All right. Here we go, ending that stream.